Hello, little toads. Chapter 9 of Soup on Ice. I can't wait. Let's have a look at the picture. Looks like a bunch of kids in what looks to be kind of an old-fashioned classroom. There's the Christmas tree, and they're singing, probably practicing something. Let's find out. It came, our final day of school. Miss Kelly stood before us. We also were standing, sharing our limited supply of scruffy songbooks, yet singing fit to bust. To the rhythm of Miss Kelly's ruler and its swinging cadence, our 28 cherubic voices were now ringing as one. Our stuffed up noses and sore throats momentarily forgotten, we merrily warbled all the anthems we knew about Christmas. You'll be seeing Mr. Claus. Here's the reason. It's because Santa's on his way to town. As I looked at Soup, I realized that I, and Miss Boland were possible the only ones who knew that this season Santa would be none other than the cussing proprietor of Slosh's Hot Time Pool Parlor. Miss Boland had sworn us to absolute secrecy, claiming that perhaps a few of Learning's parents might be offended that such an unworthy member of our saintly community would dare to keynote our Yuletide festivities. Our singing continued, verse upon endless verse, with Janice Riker singing louder than everyone else combined. She also possessed the most rasping voice, one that barely kept pace with the rest of us. Janice sang a measure behind. Her voice didn't actually produce a tone. It sounded more like a tire puncture. Her better notes reminded me of a chainsaw calling to its mate. Nonetheless, I had to give old Janice credit for her seasonal enthusiasm. Mercifully, for the sake of the composer, who might have been listening somewhere, Janice could have been heard in Idaho, our slaughtering of Santa's on his way to town chugged to its wheezing end at last. All voices but one blended in the final, to town. We stopped. To town, sang Janice Riker. Nobody laughed, not at Janice, because staying alive for Christmas seemed to all the rest of the class rather important. We also sang God is Love. During this particular song, however, my devotions were not dwelling on God, because whenever we sang the word love, I'd steal a furtive look at Norma Jean Bissell. Once she even looked at me, and I felt both of my cheeks turning redder than Christmas. Earlier in the season, I'd planned to buy a present to give Norma Jean, but the cold facts of local retailing altered my intentions. After carefully assessing the price tags on rat traps, laxatives, and mothballs, the 3 gifts for my family, I realized that I'd barely have enough of my shoveling money to squeak by. Next year, I silently promised I'd perform the snow shoveling and splurge a trip to Moe's Jewelry with Norma Jean in mind. Allie Tidwell was singing too. It made me feel right happy to watch him sing, and I wanted to do something nice for Allie as well as for Norma Jean. Before school, Allie had told me that he'd also shoveled snow for people and had earned enough to buy a cheese for his mother. As I stared at Allie, I noticed that his hands appeared a mite dirty. Yet as he sang, God is love, his face looked cleaner than a star. In the corner of our school's one and only room leaned our 3-foot-high Christmas tree in a bucket of water. Branches drooped and needles dropped, yet we didn't care. The ornaments we had designed and constructed ourselves from colored paper and scraps of old string. Oddly enough, all of the best ornaments contained none of our red paper. Janice had hogged it all. Yet no one had argued with her. The dread of spending Christmas vacation in the hospital in traction with poor Mr. Joe Sutter constantly served as a warning. A visitor came to our party. It was Mrs. Spinnerford, the librarian lady from the Learning Free Library. I liked her a whole lot because whenever she came calling, she'd read us a story or two. Miss Kelly also liked her. That was easy to tell, as our teacher offered Miss Spinnerford the chair that was close to our stove. Cracking open a book, Mrs. Spinnerford read us a Christmas story about ghosts. Even though I felt a bit sleepy from last night's excursion up Mulligan's Road, I still enjoyed her exciting story about mean old Mr. Scrooge and a poor little boy, Tiny Tim. As she read, I did happen to notice that Mrs. Spinnerford eyed Soup and me with a well-founded mistrust, perhaps based on one of our earlier trips to her library and a foraging into the adult section on pictorial human physiology. I whispered to Soup, I asked him what I like best about a Christmas party. I give up. There's no geography. After the story about Tiny Tim, the librarian lady stayed for a spell because Miss Kelly announced that we had a present to give her. So we all stood up and sang Joy to the World. To my surprise, Mrs. Spinnerford sang along too, and she knew all the words even without looking at a songbook. Today was a good day, I was thinking, but tomorrow would prove even better because Soup and I had planned to tackle our shopping. I'd be purchasing my 3 gifts for Mama, Papa, and Aunt Carrie. Well, said Mrs. Spinnerford, I don't guess I can stay much longer until I wear out my welcome, so I best get marching. Before she left, we all thanked her for coming. Miss Kelly thanked her 3 or 4 times and wished her a Merry Christmas. Miss Kelly, I was thinking, looked close to respectable for our party. Even though she was wearing her raggy gray sweater and old shoes, at least she'd removed the pencil from her hair. On her shoulder, she had pinned a paper flower of bright pink, something that the younger children had pasted together. It was a real mess. Smiling, she turned her head to smell it, pretending it was a rose. I wanted to buy Miss Kelly a present too, but there would be precious little money left over by tomorrow. Our teacher had baked some cupcakes with sugary icing all pink, which she passed to each of us. I enjoyed mine with rapturous enthusiasm, to the very final crumb which I retrieved from the floor. They're real good, we told her. Just as we were porking down the last of our cupcake treats, Miss Boland burst through the door like a winter wind to holler us all a brief howdy-do. I can't stay or tarry, she told Miss Kelly. Why not? Well, there's just too much decorating that needs my constant supervising. Most important, said Miss Boland, is that I trot downtown pronto and instruct Harold Spencer how to untangle all those pesky strings of electrical Christmas lights. Harold says he'd like to get his hands on whoever packed him away last January. As I recall, Miss Kelly told her, you did. Both ladies laughed. Before you came along, Miss Kelly said to her friend, I wonder how any of us ever prepared a Christmas or how the world managed to turn. But I do hope you'll linger long enough to help me open the bag of presents that you brought for the children. I sure will, said Miss Boland. Using her special key, Miss Kelly unlocked the bottom drawer of her desk and withdrew the bag, handing it to Miss Boland. She gently shook the rustling bag and its hidden mystery. I wonder what's in there, said our nurse. Presents, we yelled. Opening the bag with a sly expression on her face, Miss Boland extracted and counted a whole fistful of little candy peppermint canes, 28 in all. She gave one to every kid. It's not really a present from me, Miss Boland admitted. They're all from Louis Graziano. I'm glad I got just barely enough. I looked at my candy cane. Sure enough, the red and white confection was a courtesy from one of our local merchants. The wrapper read, Shop at Graziano's Grocery and Save. The other kids ate their peppermint candy right away, but I saved mine. Miss Boland left, but not before reminding us all to show up at the village square on Christmas Eve to see Santa Claus and the lighting of our giant spruce tree. She shot a secret wink to Soup and me. It was time for us to leave too. As usual, we bundle ourselves into our heavy woolen coats and footwear. On her knees, Miss Kelly struggled with a boot for one kid and a bulky mitten for another. She even wiped one first grader's runny nose. Then we lined up at the door behind Janice Riker, who, to no one's surprise, had bullied her way to the head of the line to wish Miss Kelly a Merry Christmas. Inside my mitten, I felt my candy cane. Maybe, I was thinking, I'd take it home to show my folks, professing to Mama that it wasn't quite as good as getting a BB gun, but almost. Yet, as I was about to say goodbye to Miss Kelly, a deeper feeling seemed to replace my earlier intention. I was glad I was the last kid in line, so nobody would catch my doing it. Good night, Robert. Good night, Miss Kelly, I told her, and then yanking off a mitten with my teeth, I handed her my peppermint cane. Here, I said, it's for you. Oh, thank you, but you mustn't give me your candy. Please take it, I said, because we all got one and you didn't, and because Miss Kelly touched my face. I know, she said softly, because I feel the same way about all of you. But perhaps you might think of something even better to do with your Christmas candy, even if you remember the story we heard about Tiny Tim. I smiled up at her. She nodded. And thank you. Soup had gone ahead, so I started to run in order to catch up to Norma Jean Bissell to give her my peppermint cane. She was walking with two other girls, but then I spotted Allie Tidwell walking alone, like he always did, toward the railroad tracks and home. Tiny Tim, I heard myself saying. I looked at Norma Jean and then at Allie, unable to quite decide what to do. Glancing back at Miss Kelly's school, I recalled what she told me. Then I knew, so I ran to overtake Allie because I didn't want him to be Tiny Tim, not at all. Here, I said, handing him my cane. Candy's got a way of making me sick sometimes. Allie stared at me. Honest? Yep, it turns me inside out. Same thing with Mama and Aunt Carrie, so I don't guess I can unload it on them. It'd be a shame to throw it away. Hey, maybe you could give it to your mom because peppermint goes so good with cheese. He took it. Thanks a lot, Rob. Shucks, I said, it's really from Mr. Graziano. He'll probably be at the tree lighting at the village square, so be sure to come yourself and help us thank him personal. Will you come? Allie nodded. Okay. Good. Both Dupe and I are coming for sure. We'll look for you. I was about to leave him and take off to search for Soup or Norma Jean, but a sudden idea changed my mind. Right now, I had something more worthwhile to enjoy, so I did. I walked home with Allie. And that's the end of chapter 9. Only a couple of chapters left. I can't wait to see what happens.